Boa noite, boa noite, boa noite, boa noite, Quarentena People. Eu, Hugo Medeiros, aqui no Coluna Blues Rock, chegando aqui para mais uma Quarentena Sessions. Hoje, à noite, e não à tarde, como de costume, é sempre às 4 da tarde, porque hoje como estou chegando aqui às 20 horas, é porque farei uma entrevista com um gringo, e um gringo muito, muito bom, que é minha amiga Ellie, que como sempre bateu o recorde e foi a primeira a chegar. Um gringo com muita história. Simplesmente Billy Price. Mas quem é Billy Price, senhor Hugo? Billy Price, um abraço para meu amigo Alexandre Ruas. Senhor Alexandre Ruas vai adorar essa live. Porque senhor Billy Price simplesmente já é um senhor de idade, já tem 70 anos, e ele está aí na cena blues, rock, soul, desde a década de 70. Simplesmente o senhor Billy Price gravou 2 discos com o senhor Roy Buchanan. Roy Buchanan só um instantinho. Estão me enchendo aqui o saco. Quem é? Vixe. Caramba. O senhor Billy Price não entendeu. Ele tá me mandando mensagem, requisição aqui. Ele estava achando que fosse conversa de vídeo diretamente com ele. Agora ela ouça. Calma aí, gente. Tava aqui já fazendo a apresentação e o cara não entendia. É um senhor de idade, claro. O cara não sacou como é que é o esquema. Eu vou ter... Ah, agora ele entrou. So, Mr. Billy Price is in the house. I'm gonna put you alive in a few seconds, Mr. Price. So let me introduce you here in Portuguese, then I'll be back to speak English, ok? So, Sr. Billy Price, ele já cantou na banda do Roy Buchanan, ele já teve uma banda muito, muito boa de soul, com uma levada funk, que é a Keystone Riffin Band, uma banda muito, muito legal. Meu cachorro tá fazendo besteira, calma aí. Voltei. Hoje tá tudo complicado. E Sr. Billy Price também agora, ele está em carreira solo já desde 1993. E é isso, gente. Sr. Billy Price na área. Vou colocar ele em alguns instantinhos. Só deixa eu colocar aquela mensagem fixada aqui, que é para seguir Coluna Blues Rock. Eu tenho certeza que Dona Ellen, a enciclopédia, vai querer ver e rever essa live. Mas, Hugo, como é que eu faço para rever essa live? Simples. Vá no YouTube, inscreva-se no canal Coluna Blues Rock 2.0 e é isso. Você vai poder ver diversas quarentenas sessions, inclusive entrevistas mais antigas que eu fiz com Billy Cobham, Eric Gales e lá se vai. Vou chamar aqui o Sr. Billy Price.
Hey,
Hello, Mr. Price.
hey, how you doing?
How you doing? Thank you so much. How
My
are you,
pleasure.
man?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, thank you so much for your attention and for your presence here with us.
Great to be
Blues.
with you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Price. So I'm here with Mr. Billy Price. He's a legend of soul, rock and roll, blues, and all the American music. So again, thank you so much, Mr. Price.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So, Mr. Price, let's begin in the beginning. So, you're a great soul singer. So, which soul artist influenced you the most?
Well, certainly Otis Clay has always been my favorite. And Otis and I had a chance to work together, as you probably know. We did a good bit of recording and touring together. But Bobby Blue Bland has always been my favorite blues singer. And I'm also a nut for Al Green and James Brown, of course.
Yeah.
Sam Cooke.
Sam Cooke, right.
Yeah.
But you also sing a lot, perfectly the blues. Which blues artists have influenced you the most?
Well, as I say, Bobby Blue Bland is one. Little Milton, I'm a big fan of Little Milton. And, of course, B.B. King. Most of the bands I've had always have a nice big horn section. So I always went for that kind of sound.
Yeah.
The bigger band thing, not so much
Yeah.
the Chicago blues, although I love it, but I'm a little bit more in the Texas California sound a little bit. T-Bone Walker. I love T-Bone Walker.
Yeah. So a little bit of Memphis too, right?
Yes, definitely Memphis. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of
Albert
blues,
King. I love Albert King.
yeah, Albert King, because he always had some horn sections,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's right. When he recorded on Stax and yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stacks. Amazing stacks. Speaking of blues, you have played for 3 years with Roy Buchanan.
Yes.
How
Right.
did you meet him?
I was in a band at that time, again, a horn band called the Rhythm Kings that were based in Pittsburgh. And Buchanan's manager was a guy who was from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And he heard me sing. And it was around the time when Roy was on Polydor Records, and they were looking to do a new album. It was going to be Roy's third album for Polydor. And so this fellow heard me sing and introduced me to Roy. And then Roy asked me to be on the album with him and do a little touring with him as well.
Yeah. And how was the experience? I mean, because you played with a blues guitar legend.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, he was a good bit older than me. I think he must have been 35 or 40 at the time, and I was 22 years old. And most of the guys in the band were his age, so I really had an opportunity to see the music business at the higher levels of the music business as a very young man. So I got a chance to perform in a lot of great venues with Roy, and also just to be able to be around such an inspirational, brilliant guitar player.
Yeah.
He, still to this day, guitar players revere Buchanan for his amazing abilities.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
With him, you recorded 2 albums. That's right. What I'm here for. And Livestock, I love that album. Was my first. Yes, it's true. It was my first Buchanan album. Yeah. Could you talk about each one?
Well, the first one, That's What I'm Here For, was the first thing that I did with Roy, and that was a studio album. And we put a lot of effort into it. Actually, Polydor Records put a lot of money into it. And I wrote a few of the songs on there with Buchanan, but that one didn't do that well. I mean, it was probably a bit of a disappointment, both to the record label and to those of us who were involved with it. But then a couple of years later, Roy was about to move to Atlantic Records, which was the next label that he was on. And he owed Polydor one more record. And so they decided to do a live album, and they brought me back to sing in that live performance that they recorded. And the funny thing was we put all of our time and effort and energy into the studio album, but it turns out that the live album, Livestock, is one of the ones that people still remember of Buchanan's, and it's
yes.
It's kind of considered by many to be the best album that he ever did,
I agree. For me, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
I have a friend here in our chat, Ellen. She's amazing. She's a full blues lover. Yeah. And she is saying that she loves your voice and she loves your music.
Well, thank you very much. I sure appreciate that. That's great. That's great to hear.
Yes. After Roy period, you formed the Keystone Rhythm Band, a soul funk band. Could you talk about the band?
Yeah, that was a really great band. I had a couple of notable musicians in that band. I had a saxophone player who was with us for 3 years named Eric Leeds. And Eric Leeds, when he left my band, he went and joined James Brown's band for a couple of years. And then from James Brown, he went on to perform with Prince. And he's on a number of Prince's albums. So he's a pretty well-known saxophone player. Well, he was my band leader in the Keystone Rhythm Band for a couple of years. And then there was another guitar player who, this was toward the end of the Keystone Rhythm Band, Not many people know him. His name was Glenn Pavone. He passed away about 10 years ago. But I can tell you that this guy was one of the most brilliant musicians I've ever seen or encountered in my life. He was an amazing guitar player. And he's on two of the Keystone Rhythm Band albums. One is called Live, and another one's called Free at Last. Those were the last two albums that we did. But that band was, we were kind of competing at the time with the Fabulous Thunderbirds, Huey Lewis and the News, Robert Cray, that kind of thing. And we, we just never broke through to the extent that those groups did for whatever reason,
Yeah, it was a heavy competition.
Yeah.
In '93, you recorded your debut solo, Danger Zone. Could you talk about it? Because was it different to record without your old band?
Yeah, so I had started working just a one night a week, very casual gig with some jazz musicians from Pittsburgh. And I don't know if you know much about Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but it has a very rich jazz history. Stanley Turrentine was from Pittsburgh, and Mary Lou Williams, the great drummer Roger Humphreys, who played with Horace Silver, and I could go on and on, Ahmad Jamal. And so there was a really rich jazz scene, and I started a band that we played once a week, and it was with a lot of jazz guys. And those are the guys that I used on the Danger Zone album. It was the first one that I did after the Keystone Rhythm Band. There was a great keyboard player on that album by the name of Gene Ludwig, and he was a Hammond B3 organ player. He made some pretty well-known organ trio jazz albums, but he's on that album, and just a lot of really great musicians on that one.
Yeah, it's an amazing album. I like a lot.
Most people don't know that one. It's been out of print for a long time.
Now it's on Spotfy, so I listened to all your career.
Yeah.
In 2015, you have recorded This Time for Real with, you already said, with Otis Clay.
Yes.
You too have won the Blues Music Award for Best Soul Blues Records. Could you talk about the album and the partnership?
Sure. So Otis and I began singing together in 1982, 83, around there. I was a big Otis Clay fan, and I contacted him, and I invited him to come east and do some shows with the Keystone Rhythm Band. And he agreed to do that, and we performed together, and we just clicked right away. We sang together very nicely, I think. And then Otis was on an album I did called The Soul Collection in, I want to say, 1997 or so. Then maybe around 2006 or 7, I guess, I did an album with a French guitarist named Fred Chapelier, and we invited Otis to perform on that album. Otis sang the Al Green song Love and Happiness for us on that album. And then around 2015, I had been talking to Duke Robillard about producing me, and around that time, Otis contacted me and suggested that we should do a full-length album together. And so I asked Duke if he'd be interested in producing that, and of course he was. And that was the album This Time for Real, which, sad to say, was the last album that Otis performed on before he passed away.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he was a soul legend.
He's a great guy.
His voice was beautiful, was powerful, was technically perfect.
Yeah, and he was such a great performer and a beautiful person too. Just a wonderful, warm, open-hearted guy. Very sorry that he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your last two albums were produced by Keith Anderson. In my opinion, Keith Anderson now today is the biggest blues producer in the whole world.
Absolutely.
Could you talk about the Keith Anderson production job work?
Well, Keith Anderson is he's kind of the nexus of a really vibrant scene out in Northern California. And he has access to all these great, great musicians who are coming in and out of his studio all the time. And so on the Reckoning album, we had the great bass player Jerry Jamat, who plays regularly at Kid's studio, and the great keyboard player Jim Pugh, and Kid, of course, on guitar, who's a virtuoso guitar player, great keyboard player also, and bass player. And also, Kid is very, very facile with the computer-based tools, so it's a little home studio, but he gets amazing sound out of it. And he brought in so many great people. He brought in a gospel vocal group called the Sons of the Soul Revivers to sing background. His wife is a wonderful background singer. We had Rusty Zinn singing background on there, a saxophone player from the California Honey Drops, Johnny Bones. So, Kid just brings these people in, and it's a great scene there. And then I went back and did my second album there with a lot of those same people and some other great people as well. And that was Dog Eat Dog, which is the latest album on Gulf Coast Records.
Yes. Talking about Dog Eat Dog, your last album for Gulf East Records. Yeah. It's amazing. It's a beautiful album from the beginning to the end. It's really, it is. First, could you talk about the album, because it's all danceable. It's perfect to dance.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we probably think of Kid Anderson as primarily a blues enthusiast, because he's the guitar player in the great blues band Rick Espin and the Nightcats.
Yes.
But Kid is like me, a huge fan of soul music and funk, and some of the music on both those albums, Reckoning and Dog Eat Dog, is really more soul music than it is blues. So there is blues on both of them, but there's some softer things and some things that almost remind you of Philadelphia soul music.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Ellen is saying, Dog Eat Dog, it's a badass album. I agree, Ellen. I agree. And why did you put that name, Dog Eat Dog?
We that's a song that Rick Espin had written when he was with Little Charlie and the Nightcats many years ago. And it was Kid's idea to do a new version of that song. And, it's a very, it's a memorable title. And you've seen the cover. We were able to get a really cool cover, a photograph of me with a very scary looking Doberman. And it's, it was kind of a branding thing, I guess, a marketing thing to call it that. Yeah.
Ellen again is saying, my favorite track is All Night Long Cafe.
Ah, that's a cool one, yeah. Mike Zito on guitar on that one.
Oh,
Mike
nice.
Zito plays the guitar solo on that.
So nice.
Yeah.
Mr. Price, well, thank you so much for your attention, for your presence here with us, Brazilians, blues lovers, and soul and funk. You're a legend. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. I hope I get to Brazil sometime to perform for all you nice folks.
Please, come here, please.
Maybe I'll get to shake Ellen's hand one day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Price.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. Aí, Ellen, ainda vai dançar com o coroa, hein? Se deu bem, Ellen. Gente, eu falei aqui com uma lenda, 6 pessoas aqui online, mas quantidade não quer dizer absolutamente nada. Se eu estivesse me pautando pela quantidade de acessos, eu já teria largado Coluna Blues Rock há muito tempo. Infelizmente, o Mr. Price, por ser vocalista e já ser um senhor de 70 anos, ele não tinha como ficar muito tempo na conversa, mas eu acho que deu para fazer uma boa... Deu para fazer um bom giro aí, né? Pela sua carreira. E o cara é uma lenda. Gente, o cara tocou simplesmente com Roy Buchanan. Roy Buchanan. E ele ganhou um Blues Music Awards junto com o Otis Clay. Agradeço a todos a atenção. Hoje, quarta-feira, com Billy Price. Foi uma pausa da segunda Harmonica Week. Voltamos amanhã com a segunda Harmonica Week. Amanhã com o argentino Nikos Moljan. O Osmar com certeza deve conhecê-lo. O cara toca muita gaita. Dizem, né? Pelo menos foi o que o Fede Vaz do Uruguai na segunda-feira disse. Dizem, né? O Fede diz que ele é o melhor gaitista de blues da Argentina. Ninguém tem a fluência de blues como ele tem. Sexta-feira, Jefferson Gonçalves estará por aqui. Sábado será o especial do Bluesman que for ganhar a Copa All Blue. Eu já sei qual vai ser, mas eu não vou falar só para não influenciar no finalzinho de votação. E domingo, para finalizar a segunda Harmonica Week, teremos Lee Oscar. Semana que vem, gente, agora eu posso falar ao vivo, será a última semana com lives diárias, porque, pelo menos aqui no Rio de Janeiro, nós teremos aqui o Cris, saudade de você, irmão. Nico é sinistro, muito bueno. Se o Cristiano Crochamor falou, é porque semana que vem vai ser a minha última semana fazendo lives diárias, porque o Rio de Janeiro, a partir do dia 15, ele começa a tentar voltar ao cotidiano. Não sei se vai dar muito certo, mas a gente segue as ordens do governo. Então, semana que vem eu vou tentar fazer uma agenda muito especial. Eu já fechei aqui uma dessas atrações especiais. Eu não vou falar, vou deixar para surpresa, mas é um cara que também aí já está na estrada há pelo menos uns 50 anos tocando guitarra. Brasileiro, diga-se de passagem. Já estou também tentando fechar com um cantor de blues soul. O cara é sensacional e já fez turnês aqui no Brasil, acho que em 2018, talvez. O Cris, com certeza, se não tocou com ele, pelo menos viu nesses festivais de Brasil afora. E é isso, gente. Muito obrigado aí pela audiência. Como sempre, a Coluna Blues Rock está tentando divulgar aí a boa música pelo Brasil. Se você tem vídeo, se você tem banda, manda o material com a Coluna Blues Rock, vai dar aquela escutada e vai publicar também. E é isso, gente. Estou indo nessa. Fui!